Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to make a trip around the state tonight. We got to find out what's happening fish-wise. We'll make a quick stop over at Nosara, Costa Rica, because I got to get my billfish fixed. And then we're going to hit Northeast Florida, work our way down the East Coast, through the Keys, up the West Coast, out the Panhandle. I want to hear about the scallops because scallop season's in full bloom. I want to hear about the mahi. There's been bunch of them down in South Florida. There's a lot of fishing to talk about tonight. So we're going to check in with each one of our action spotters and find out what's going on in their area. The Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you this week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. Oh, it's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats. You want the finest in flats bay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co. That's the hat that's helping save our seas. And Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price every day. Let's get her rolling with a quick trip to Nosara, Costa Rica to check in with one Craig Sutton. All right, while we're talking about crazy wild dreams, let's go visit one that's come true for me more than once. Down in Nosara, Costa Rica, where we find Craig Sutton, the purveyor of all things fishing Nosara. Craigie, how are you?
I'm good, Captain Ricky.
Did I hear
a real good week down there?
I was going to say, did I hear a report your sailfish showed up like they were supposed to?
Yeah, we've had them peak in June, July, and August several times before, so it's really not that unusual, but it's just nice to see that we're finally starting to get some numbers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's getting to be prime time for you now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, we're pretty well slammed the first 8 days, 9 days of August, but then we fall off, man. It's just demand. It's the best fishing of the year, but we're having a big July.
Good. Boy, I tell you, I think you're just settling into prime time. Any marlin this week?
Nope. Raised 2 on their harvest there. Had one to discover, but nope, no marlin.
Gotcha. How many sailfish?
They were mixed in with the sailfish.
How many sailfish did you end up with, do you know?
Right around 20 total for the week, maybe 25. There was like a Glenn Rumor from Clearwater got 5 for 7, and then I think Discover was 4 for 7. Not quite as many as we'd like, but not bad,
Well, I tell you, and people over here on the Atlantic need to understand that those are not our sailfish. What would you say your average sailfish weight is over there?
Probably 120.
Yeah, that's a lot bigger than our fish. That's a small marlin on our coast, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
How about Big Dorado? Any Big Dorado this week?
No, a bunch of small ones.
A lot of small ones.
A bunch of small ones and some nice yellowfin. Another one of those. They called it 90. I don't think it was 90, Ricky. I think it was more like 80 or 75. It's a nice fish. It's good sized fish, but not a lot. I mean, a bunch of the smaller ones. The yellowfin.
Well, I just spent the weekend with my accountant who had 10,000 questions about Nosara. I know he's very anxious to get his family down there. I know they're going to have a great time.
Yeah, he's coming up in another week, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. He's got 3 young, single, good-looking sons. I wonder how they'll do over there.
Oh, my gosh, all the yoga girls. Oh, my gosh. They're going to have fun.
You better tell those young surfers over there that hold on.
Yeah, well, there's yoga girls in our community. There's a bunch of them.
Well,
those are pretty attractive women.
Yes, there are. I can tell you that. And I love being – and he asked me, he said, how's the food over there? I said, I don't even want to talk about the food. It makes me hungry. Talk about places like Pacific Azul. Oh, my gosh. Is there some good food over there?
That's almost everybody's favorite. That's the one I get named everybody's number one restaurant when I call them back up. That's the most popular one.
Yep, I believe it. All right, Craigie, well, I want you to take care of my boys over there. Y'all have a great time. I appreciate the heck out of it.
All right, Ricky. Be good, sir. Talk to you next week.
Thank you, Craig. Craig Sutton from Fishing Nosara. Now, time to hit Northeast Florida. Let's check in with one David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good. I'm mighty proud to hear it. Tell me how your fishing's been this week.
Well, it's sort of been tough. We this past week we didn't have the great tides that we wanted, and that being that outgoing tide. So, it seems like you got to fish early in the morning if you want to avoid these rain showers that's been pretty much hitting us pretty hard every evening. So, fishing in the evening, you take that 50-50 chance of being, ran off the water by rain and lightning and all that stuff. So you got to fish in the morning this time of year. And with that being said, you got to take the tide that's dealt. You got to play the hand that is dealt to you. So, it was a little tough. Didn't get much of the outgoing tide. It was mostly all incoming tide, and that incoming tide can be a good one and it can be a rotten one, man. You just never can quite figure it out. Some days they want to bite on it, and some days, man, you just struggle with it. I always feel like on that incoming tide, you end up chasing fish, where on the outgoing tide, the fish tend to come to you. And if you fish Northeast Florida, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The reds this week, there was a lot of good ones, some big ones in deep water, a lot of shrimp. The water was dirty this week. Didn't see the clear water we've been seeing in the past, which was very disappointing because we've had some clear water and was able to actually do some sight fishing to some reds. Trout was almost non-existing for me up and down the intercoastal. Talked to a few guys, and they really didn't see a whole lot of trout. You pick one up here and one there. It just hasn't been an outstanding trout year for us. But on the flip side, the flounder have been fantastic. We've been seeing quite a few flounder. Even though they're small, I'm hoping that fall is going to be a real good run of flounder. And, the fall's not that far away. It's right around the corner. So I'm hoping to see a really good run of flounder. It's been a great summer for flounder. Even though we see a lot of small ones, we're still managing. This year I'll probably have brought home more flounder, in the fish box than I would say the past 4 or 5, maybe even longer than that, 7 or 8 years. We just haven't seen a great flounder, but this year's been an exception, and I'm looking forward to the fall.
And David, we may well see that as a result of the change in regulations that went into effect last year. It may be. And along that subject, if you were king for a day, you get to change one regulation. Maybe it's environmental, maybe it's fish limits, maybe it's whatever. For me, being an offshore guy, I'd like to see a 5-year ban on keeping gag grouper. Our gag grouper are in serious trouble off of Northeast Florida, and other places are doing fine. But we had some kind of disease that went through our fish a number of years ago, and they'd never really come back. What would you change if you could change one thing?
Well, that's going to be easy for me, but I got to comment on what you said. You would do that change before you would change the red snapper regulation?
Oh, golly, you don't even need to go there with me. I'm so angry about that. Yeah, that makes a great point. You're right. I would go 1 red snapper per person per day, 4 per boat. We're done. Thank you. Have a nice day. And it could run that way in perpetuity.
And that might even help the gag situation.
It would help the gag situation. Yeah, it would.
That might even help the gag grouper.
Yeah.
But with me, Rick, it's going to be easy. It's a no-brainer, and you probably know exactly where I'm going to go here. I would slot the spotted sea trout.
Yep.
And you know what? We were happy with that 20-incher. Do not keep one over 20 inches.
Go 15 to 20? Is that what you want, 15 to 20?
Well, 15 to 20, I was fine with that. It's 15 to 19 now. you know, but if we're going to go ahead and slot it, if we're going to say, no, you can't keep anything, instead of, I mean, I've always believed this, Rick, and you know where I stand on this. I've always been a firm believer that I would rather us keeping the small trout than keeping the big trout. You know, I don't think the smaller trout do as much harm to the population as taking out those big spawning females do. And I would absolutely do that to the spotted sea trout. No spotted sea trout for anybody over 20 inches.
You know, I hate to give the freshwater guys any credit, but maybe they can teach us something here now, because the FWC is urging bass fishermen to keep the small bass. They're saying we've got too many bass in general, and they can't get big because there's too many small ones. Well, with us, that's not the reasoning behind it, but it does make a lot of sense to keep the big spawners in the water, take home the 14 inchers if you want to.
Yep. And can I make one more comment to that, Rick, real quick? Biologists have found this out. When you keep your smaller fish and you do a sex count, you're going to find that your male to female ratio is almost even, almost a 50-50 cut. As you get into the bigger fish, your male to female ratio really goes down. Most of the fish you're going to be harvesting are going to be female fish.
Yep, you're right. David, great report. Love your idea. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Hey, I'll be here waiting for the phone to ring, Ricky.
Thanks, Captain David. Captain David Voorhees from right here in Northeast Florida. I tell you what, he's got his finger on the pulse of Northeast Florida's inshore fishery. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to head down to East Central, but before we do, let's get a word from D.O.A. I recently had a chance to stop by D.O.A. World Headquarters in Stuart, Florida. I wasn't the least bit surprised to see company founder Mark Nichols hard at work on a fish-catching invention. What was shocking to me was he was working on the original D.O.A. shrimp, the same shrimp he patented in 1985. It's the stealthiest bait ever made, the bait that lands so subtly that spooky fish will never hear it coming. It was getting Mark's full attention. "What are you doing?" was the obvious question. Mark looked at me sideways and said, "I've never stopped working on the shrimp. It's got to catch more fish every year, so I've got to make each one better than the last." Mark went on to say, "I've gotten all the production in-house now, and that means today's 3 and 4 inch shrimp are consistently the best we've ever built." You know what? I get it. The D.O.A. shrimp that fooled 1 million fish in 1985 has had to keep up with the times to keep making your fishing better. More than ever, the fish are spooky. The 2022 version of the D.O.A. shrimp is the stealthiest, most lifelike, and deadliest bait you can throw. Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now it's time for East Central. Captain Jim Ross. Jimmy, how are you?
Doing fantastic this week, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? We've had good fishing, haven't we?
We have. You know, that full moon came through, and it kind of got a little slow at the end of last week, but this week it's turned right around, and they're firing right back up.
Nothing. That's fantastic. What are you catching?
In the lagoon system, it's been a good mixed bag. There's mangrove snapper around a lot of the docks and rocks and spoil islands and bridges. All the little mangrove bushes, anything that's got green leaves or overhanging branches and root systems to it, all the fish are like gravitating under them right now. So we've got redfish, we've got trout, we've got tarpon, we've got snook. We've just got a good variety of fish right now. And then out in the open flats, especially where you see schools of glass minnows, and a lot of times you'll see terns or seagulls working over those glass minnows, just really, really solid action on ladyfish, gaff tops, and trout underneath them. Now, if you come across a pokey pod in the lagoon system, you're probably going to see some tarpon hanging around those pogies, just like you would on the beach, but they're inside the river right now. And a caveat to that really makes it nice is if you don't catch the tarpon, and you can keep the catfish, because those gaff tops do chase the pogies around. If you can keep them off of it, there are redfish chasing those pogie schools down deep. So put one down on a weight, and you're likely to catch one of those big bull reds.
All right, Jimmy. I'm going to ask you. I've asked everybody that's told me about sail cats. Have you ever eaten one?
Yes, I have.
Are they really good?
I never myself have personally skinned one, fried one, whatever.
Uh-huh.
My grandfather used to make some kind of ceviche pickling solution. I don't know what the heck you would call it, but he put some spices and some vinegar or something. I don't even know what he made it out of. I was 10 or 12 at the time. But here's the thing, Rick. He would put speckled trout in a mason jar with whatever the solution was. And he would put sail cat, gaff-top catfish, in that mason jar as well. And you could definitely tell the difference because there's a huge difference in the way that those two meats look. The catfish is very striated, kind of looks like a triple tail almost, if you will, or a grouper where it has huge striations in it. Where trout don't have that. Trout are kind of a smooth flesh.
Right.
But you would pick the fish out of that solution, and you'd go catfish 2-to-1 on the trout.
I'll be
All
darned.
day.
I'll be
All
darned.
day
All right, now you went and did it. Now you got to try one. All right, you got to let me know. Somebody got to tell me I ate one and it was good.
So they are. You will eat them 2-to-1 over the trout.
How
Guaranteed.
about that?
But I
crazy.
wish my grandfather wouldn't have passed away when I was at a young age, so he could have handed that recipe down to me. I'm sure there's plenty out there, and if I actually took the time to Google it, I'd find something. But it's one of those things where you don't know until you try it.
I'm
right?
scared to Google pickled catfish. I don't know what I'd come up with. Hey, Jimmy. All right, if you're king for a day in East Central Florida, your fishery, you can change one regulation. What is it?
Does it have to be a regulation about a specific fish?
Nope.
Okay. I would immediately cease and desist all residential lawn fertilization, period. I would kill it. If you apply lawn fertilizer, we're going to string you up and beat you like a piñata. That's what I would do.
Let me tell you what, you're not the only person in Florida feels that way, my boy.
Fertilizer is an absolute. Every single sack of fertilizer that goes out of one of the hardware stores or out of the local big box store, every single sack of fertilizer that is applied is one more nail in the coffin of the lagoon system. It is lagoon poison. It's absolute poison to our lagoon grass and our lagoon waters. And people that apply it, I'm serious. Let's play piñata with them.
Well said. I've heard it before. I believe it. I think you're absolutely right. It's okay with me for you to be king for a day. Thank you, Jimmy. Please promise me we can check with you next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Rick.
Captain Jim Ross from East Central Florida. That means it's Stewart time. I got a funny feeling because I just left there not long ago. We're going to be talking to a happy John Earhart. John, I got to tell you something, buddy. I fished out of your inlet last Thursday. I got a feeling you remember the day. It was totally slick calm, and you know where I'm going with this. That may have been the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, it's been some pretty stellar sail fishing.
Man, it was so good, but just riding John, they were everywhere with their sails out of the water. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and July is always like one of the best months to witness that if you're lucky. And if you time it right, it's slick calm. There's tons of sailfish around, and you're actually getting tired of catching them because you're catching so many. So I definitely bring a few extra Gatorades with me this time of year because I want to catch as many as I can, and I want to stay hydrated while I'm doing it. And, you got to catch a lot of bonitas in between those sailfish, too.
Yeah, you do. Unless you cast it directly to a finning fish, there's a very good chance a bonita's got it.
Yeah, so, I mean, the bait has been plentiful. It's been pretty easy to come by. The bait guys have been selling bait, but I always prefer stopping first thing in the morning, maybe getting down to the boat ramp half an hour early, going out and sabiki those fresh baits, and getting out there first thing in the morning. And as the sun's coming up, you better well believe you're going to use every bait in that live well if the fish are biting that day.
Yep. Our mutual friend George Labonte down in fishes out of Jupiter, has a saying. He's the city motto for Stewart is "Welcome to Stewart. Now shut up and reel in your bonita." And I think, in a lot of days, I think that's true. But man, what a sailfish season! And my question is this: will they do it at all again in August?
I think we might get another shot at them in August. I've had a few years where it's like sometimes the bite's a little slow in June and July, and then all of a sudden you get another push of them in August. Usually that's the first 2 weeks of August, and then once you get towards the end of August, the bait fish kind of start to thin out a little bit. You don't see as many greenies and sardines, and that's when the sailfish start to disappear. So you definitely want to get out right now. It seems like it's prime time, and around these full moons in July and August, you can expect some real big wahoo while you're sailfishing too. So don't be afraid to run a tracer wire leader while you're sailfishing, because you might very well get rewarded with a 50 to 80 pound wahoo.
Woo, that'd work. That'd work. I tell you what, that would surely work. I've been pleasantly surprised this season, the times I've been down there, with the number and the size of mahi also that were mixed in with them. In 70 feet of water the other day, we caught a double, and the bull was 28 pounds.
Yeah, I seen that picture you sent me. I'm not going to lie, I was a little jealous. That's a nice mahi for this time of year.
I was very impressed with that. But what's been going on down there besides sailfish, John?
The snapper fishing's been super consistent. A lot of big mutton snappers, a lot of kingfish on the reef. That's been 70 to 90 feet of water. There's been some mahi mixed in too, so don't be afraid to put a flat line out while you're bottom fishing on anchor. In inshore, we've had a lot of snook, as you would expect. You know, the summer snook spawn's going on, so you can catch plenty of snook around the St. Lucie Inlet. Been some tarpon mixed in. I've been hooking some sawfish too. You know, you are supposed to release them as quickly as possible if you do hook them, but there's some sawfish, and they look like they're spawning in our area right now as well. So it's been a good mixed bag, both inshore and offshore. July and August are great months to fish here in Stewart, so I look forward to doing either or when I can.
John, well, how do you fish for a sawfish? What's the methodology there?
Well, I mean, you're not supposed to fish for them, but if you were fishing for them, you know, typically you fish a bait on the bottom, and if you're in an area where they're at, I mean, they're not very picky. They'll eat just about any dead bait you put out on the bottom.
I see.
When you do catch one, you're supposed to report it right away, and it's kind of like Goliath grouper. You're not supposed to take them out of the water at all. You're not even really supposed to get pictures with them. But I got to tell you, if you catch a 10-foot sawfish, it's hard not to want to get a picture with one of those elusive fish.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Now they are actually, if I remember correctly from elementary school, they're actually a member of the ray family, aren't they?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy. But it's cool to see them make a comeback, and I'm glad to see you're not the only person in Florida. Our buddy down in Isla Mirada, Captain Bean Storn has told us about several sawfish catches he's had lately. So I think it's neat to see him around. I think it's neat to see him completely protected. It's just one of the few things that we're doing really well right now. John, we appreciate it as always. You fishing tomorrow?
Yes, sir. I'll be out there tomorrow tarpon fishing. No sail fishing, but if you're catching a bunch of sailfish, be sure and text me because I want to know about it.
Okay, I sure will. Thanks, Captain John Earhart from Stewart, Florida. That means it's Miami time. We speak to the legend himself, Captain Ray Rocher. Ray, how are you?
Good, Rick. How are you doing?
Buddy, I'm doing excellent. Great to hear from you. Tell me about your fishing this week.
It's been a little bit slower on the dolphin front. There are quite a few dolphin, but they're small.
Mm-hmm.
Not many keepers. So, you know, every day it's been from just a couple to maybe the best I heard was 10 keepers in a day, which isn't really good for right now. But I always see August being better than July. July always represents a little bit of a lull for us here in Miami. So can't explain why. You know, I remember a couple of years where it was good all through the summer months, but I would say, you know, 3 out of 4 years, July slows down. There are a lot of fish, but they're small. And then August comes, and that age class just grows another 3-4 pounds, and they're nice fish.
Now, I gotta ask you this, and this just sounds so crazy to me. These fish that are short in July, are you saying they'll be keepers by August, or they will be replaced by keepers in August?
they'll be keepers by August. I used to participate a lot with the Rosenstiel School in University of Miami.
Right.
And the very short version of the story is we caught 3 bulls one day that were no bigger than 5 pounds. I'm going to say 4 to 5. Barely see that they were a bull. Those 3 fish, 2 of the 3 were killed by the more dominant one over a 9.5 month period. And at 9.5 months, he was 56.4 pounds on a digital scale. So that means he grew 51 pounds in less than 10 months. Now, granted, that was the super diet of sardines and squid, but it shows you what they're capable of. And all 3 fish were growing at pretty close to the same rate.
Wow. But the dominant one killed the other 2. How about that?
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
They said that the bulls generally will push on the females to get them to spawn. They spawn supposedly, according to the biologist, every other morning about 5% of their body weight. So 20-pound cow would spawn about a pound of eggs. And they know that because they capture it in a filter. You know, these are self-contained, they're contained tanks with filtration. Now, and then they would actually grow the dolphin from the eggs. It's a pretty amazing process if you ever get the chance to go there.
Now, here's my question about that. And I thought about that since you and I have had this discussion before. I have never caught a cow that didn't have eggs in her. Have you?
No, they regenerate within 2 days, is what they say. And granted, they're in the perfect position of monitoring all of this in captivity.
Right.
And they've been for years and years. I probably caught, I'm going to guess, 10 batches of dolphin with them over maybe a 3 or 4 year period. And then they got their own boat. So now they're catching their own. But I'm still in touch with them. I talked to Ron Honig just the other day. We're supposed to go out and try to get some Almaco jacks, some bigger jacks. And not the little school ones on the pallets, but, the 5 to 10 pounders. So, I still help them out on occasion. But there was a time when we did all of their cobia and dolphin capturing for broodstock. And it was really, really entertaining and fact-filled. You're just surrounded by people who have been living at the farm, so to speak, watching all these things. They said that the bulls will push on the females to get them to discharge their eggs in an effort to get them to breed.
Right.
And in nature, that's fine because they're just pushing them against the water. But in captivity, they would sometimes, if they hit them just right, kill them against the side of the tank.
I'll be darned.
So what? Job security for me. We have to go get a new.
You got to get new ones, yeah. What have you caught this week besides dolphin?
A few tails and had about a 20, 25-pound cobia on the kite. Believe it or not, we kite fished a fair amount. It was fairly windy. And when you get a hard east wind, it kind of fractures your weed lines that would normally go north and just kind of scatters them into what we call wind rows, east and west. And it just kind of messes up. Unless the dolphin are really pouring through, if there aren't a lot of dolphins, it makes them harder to find. And you'll see some birds on them still, but it's just not that easy, going to the big patches or a nice straight weed line you're trolling down. That's the easiest way to find them and stay with them. These fish get kind of a little bit scattered and going in different directions. They're not just traveling down a weed line. So anyways, we've had variety. Yellowtails were biting yesterday. We've been hitting the wrecks a little bit, catching a few yellow eyes and vermilions. This time of year, we just kind of try a lot of different things, hoping something will work.
That's outstanding. Ray, I just made you king for a day in Southeast Florida. You get to change one. Either it can be an environmental regulation, it can be a fishing slot size, whatever you want it to be. What regulation are you going to change about your fishery?
About 10 or 12 years ago, I recommended to a panel that I was on with the South Atlantic that we put zip tie tags in every fish because we're making laws. Like just use the red snapper fishery, for example. At the time that we had this conversation, I had been fishing about 30 years, close to 30 years, and I had never been pulled over and had a fish measured. I know that sounds crazy, but I was over 200 days a year for all those years and never had a fish measured on the water. I had people, come up to me at the dock and measure fish. But my point was, how do they really know what we're catching?
Right.
If I put in 250 days a year for 20-something years, almost 30 years, they have no clue what I've harvested other than what I sold and turned in a trip ticket. And when you go elk or deer hunting out west, they give you one-time use tags and a book of regulations. Kind of a simple concept. And when I promoted it, they kind of shot me down. This was, like I said, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And I just think, and it could help us or hurt us, but at least we'd be operating on accurate data. How it would work, let's just say there's 1 million recreational tags. At the end of the year, whatever's not used, you turn in for a credit, whether it be 50% credit or the entire credit, and you get new tags for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
At least you'd have a rough estimate of the number of head that you killed. All that's left is a multiplier for weight. And you can get that easily off the trip tickets if they added one box, which is count.
Sure.
So in other words, if you sold 200 pounds of dolphin, what was the count? It was 40 fish. Okay, we have a 5.0 pound average on this batch.
Yep.
And the next batch. Pretty soon, you're going to have a very, very good idea what your average weight is in each region based on commercial landings.
So,
and to me, that's the common sense way to understand what we are catching. If we had to tag everything just like an elk or a deer, when you come in the inlet, it better be gill tags. Just right through the gill, just a 10-inch tag. And they said something about cost. I said, well, I'm in the tackle business. I'll take the contract for 15 cents a tag right now. And they're like, well, it was like too radical of an idea. But think about managing the on the water management. When you come in the inlet, your fish better be tagged.
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier. Put it this way: what we're doing today, I have to report it's about 50 questions on every charter.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do that for NOAA, but I can do it a week later. Once the fish are clean and gone, who knows what I write down? I'm going to tell the truth, but I'm not saying everybody else does. So again, it's all good faith and just tell me what you caught, this and that. And that's only for charter boats, by the way. I'm talking about what every charter boat and recreational boat would have to do. And it's simple once you got used to it. You'd have bags of tags. You better just make sure you got tags. If you want to go catch dolphins, you better have some dolphin tags.
Yep.
And the bottom line is we have gotten the regulations have, in my opinion, hurt us by closing things down. They just closed blue line tiles for commercial. Granted, that's based on landing. But every time they close a fishery for recreational landing, what are they basing it on?
I guess. Yeah.
It's a major extrapolation.
Yep.
So, if I had to change one thing, it would be I don't mind restrictions as long as they're based on fact, not extrapolation.
The problem, Ray, to me, and I can only speak for Northeast Florida because I see the horrible travesty of the red snapper regulations up here. We had 2 days for a season this year. It was cut by a third. Yep. And what that does is that ruins the fisherman's faith in the system. Okay,
correct.
We no longer believe in the South Atlantic Council. So more and more people are operating outside of the law because they can't support this ridiculous system. The red snapper now exists to the detriment of the reefs because they're eating everything there. And you're right. If we would set up and say, all right, you can harvest 1 million red snapper this year. So you disperse 1 million tags, and when they're turned in, they're done. They're over. We know how many were caught. I am totally in favor of recreational mandatory reporting. I think you are too, and I think your idea is fantastic. Ray, thanks so much for the report and the idea. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. I'll be here.
I look forward to it. Ray Rocher of Miss Brit Charters, a great fisherman, a great friend, and a very smart man.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name.
That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Ray Rocher, a very welcome new podcaster for us the last few weeks. Ray is so in tune with that Southeast Florida fishery. I love to get his reports. Time to jump over to 10,000 Islands and check in with Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Rick. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, buddy. It's been a great week. Tell me about your fishing.
It's been pretty good. You know, not so much on the offshore side to report, but the inshore bite's been really good. And it's really twofold species. It's the snook fishing's been really good. We got snook kind of everywhere. We got them offshore on wrecks and reefs. Got them still kind of straggling a little bit on the beaches. Can sight fish those, and then obviously you got them in the backcountry up in the mangroves and the deeper holes. So live bait's kind of paramount right now. Early bite, obviously, with the hot water temperatures. If you can gut it out and you get a little bit of overcast, the juvenile tarpon are rolling kind of everywhere right now. And these are fish probably up to 40 pounds. Common fish, 10 to 20 pounds. It's pretty much all artificials, small paddle tail swim baits on quarter-ounce jig heads, jerk shads, things of that avail. But a lot of fun, but you're going to need a little bit of cloud cover to do it. So it's almost kind of timing your morning fishing. Once those afternoon thunderstorms start to build a little bit, you're going to get a little bit of overcast skies. That's that hour you want to be doing this. And the better the tide, or the faster the tide, it's going to help you a little bit. But they're all up in the creeks, or the creek mouths rather. Basically, and if you look at our region, all the creek mouths up to the top of our region. So they're there.
What percentage of your charters now want a tarpon fish?
You know what? A ton, actually. It's really a revered fish in our area, and I try to, convince a lot of people to go after juveniles as well. If they haven't caught that bucket list, triple digit fish, or, at least what they think is a triple digit fish. Most of them are 80 pounders. But the reality is I really like that juvenile tarpon bite. You can do it on light tackle.
I'm with you 100%. And now the snook, you can catch them from the beach?
Yeah, there are. They're still available on the beach. Amazingly, we've been seeing some nice ones, not those big females, but some smaller females and bigger males. In that low 30-inch range, and there's still plenty of bait on the beaches. So they're not really going anywhere, and maybe some late stragglers to go spawn offshore, but they're still available. Not as thick as they generally are in May and June, but we've got them.
Well, that's some great fish. That is some great fish. Hey, let me ask you a question. I'm going to make you king for a day. You can change one regulation for your area. It can be environmental. It can be slot size. It can be bag limit, whatever you want. What are you changing?
You know what? I'm pretty content with what we have going in our region right now. One thing I would love to see, though, is I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and a way to do this is, our regulations are always in flux, and it's more so than ever. And it seems like dates are constantly changing, bag limits and sizes, and to the fork, not to the fork. I mean, it's about as confusing as it gets, and we all do this for a living. I can only imagine what it's like for the recreational angler. And while it's the fisherman's responsibility to know the rules, I'm almost thinking, I go into tackle shops all the time, bait shops, and maybe there's a way that FWC can subsidize some point of purchase display, and for the tackle shops to be able to let know what is in season, what are the size limits, the bag limits, things of that avail. And it can be, and maybe there's an incentive for the tackle shop owner to be able to do that through FWC, but. We have a ton of information at our hands, but it gets lost, and we get these emails and the texts, and, we're all so busy. But in the moment when those, the guys are getting their bait in the morning or, getting ready on a Friday night to go fishing for the weekend, that information would be right in front of them. And
now, would you put it in a flyer in the bag of the tackle they buy, or would you put it up like in a big sign in the tackle shop?
I thought about like the big sign, but obviously you're going to take up, precious retail space for the retailer. And I think that's, it would be great if you could do that, but it may not even all have to be, all that big, but I would just be, concerned about the flyers getting, littered and things like that. But if you got that one-stop shop, source for information, it's your local tackle shop usually. So, so I don't know, just something like that. That's what I'm thinking.
I like it
because it's constantly in flux.
Yep,
so.
I like it. Yeah, you can't pretend to keep it in your brain. I had to look up lane snapper the other day because we somehow got.
I'm just not that smart.
Yeah, got stuck on it. We got just right on a good bite of lane snapper, and I didn't know, and I'm supposed to know. All right, buddy, that's a great report, and I like your idea. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, I can't wait, Rick. Looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Steve. Steve Dahl from 10,000 Islands. Now, we get to head up the coast a little ways to the southwest area to check in with Greg, Snook Stamp Charters. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Rick. How are you?
Doing fine, Mr. Stamper. How's your fishing going?
Fishing has been very good. The back bay bite continues to be good as long as you start early. Those tarpon are biting good, first light, and then we're moving on to our redfish and our snook. And, of course, we're also starting to see a little more pompano action, which is very nice.
Why are you seeing pompano in July? That is so weird to me.
Yeah, we have them all year round. Yeah, we get them all year round, Rick. They kind of come and go with the water being clean or dirty. And it's a really nice surprise when you're hitting a popping cork for trout with a shrimp under it, and you catch a 4 or 5 pound.
Yes, it is, buddy. Yes, it is. But I don't understand it because in Northeast Florida, they come in March when the water hits a certain temperature, and then as soon as May gets here, they're gone, and then they'll show back up again at the end of October. We don't ever get residents that hang over, maybe one every now and then, but certainly not fishable numbers. But you guys, where the water is much warmer, seem to have them all the time.
Well, there's a reason people come down here to retire, Rick.
Oh, just shut up. Nobody wants to hear you. Shut up. What's going on besides pompano?
So the offshore stuff that I can give you kind of a first-hand thing. I've been out twice in the last week and a half or so. I've been out pretty deep. We were out almost 200 feet. The ARs out there are big. We've got a lot of fish that were in that 10 to 15 pound class. And our bycatch included things like mutton snapper, some vermilions. We had to deal with amberjack and other things like that. They got a few mahi, but it's been pretty consistent. The cool part is I learned if you drop a grunt, Rick, down in 200 feet of water, you might catch a 40-pound black grouper.
How about that? That's a fine fish right there now. Good job. Good job. That's a good deal. Now, how much longer is your red snapper season open?
We're going to have about another week and a half total. So at the end of this month, we'll be done with it. It's been very successful, and probably because we've had so many good days. So normally you can't just plan a trip and go. You have to kind of rely on the weather, but the weather's been pretty good for us. You do have to dodge storms from time to time. Sometimes your trip isn't a straight line, so prepare for that if you're putting the fuel into it. But, I mean, we just got back 2 days ago. We blew 360 gallons. So.
Well, think about this, okay? You've got as many days left as we're going to get in Northeast Florida in the next decade.
Yeah, you guys are so much better at catching them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we all believe that. Hey, I'm going to make you king for a day in Southwest Florida, Greg Stamper. Tell me you get to change one regulation. It can be environmental. It can be bag limit. It can be whatever you want it to be. Give me one regulation you want changed.
Well, I'd like to change the regulation they're about to change back to Kentucky. We have a lot of redfish around. There's no doubt about that. All our fish that we're catching are 25 up to about 33 inches. But in the last year, Rick, I've only caught a handful, maybe 5 rat reds or small redfish. So opening it really kind of seems silly if we seem to be missing a year and a half or 2 years of spawn. Until I start catching rat reds, when I go out and look for these fish on popping course for shrimp, things they should be eating, if I can't catch a couple of those here and there, we have a problem. I would keep redfish closed for another year.
Got it. All right. Yeah, it sounds like a plan to me. That's a great report and a great idea. I don't disagree with you at all. Won't hurt a thing to keep it closed. Thank you, Greg. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely, Rick. Guidelines, but
Captain Greg Stamper from Stook Stamp Charters. Now let's move to West Central. We know who's always got an opinion there. Captain Ray Markham. Raymond, how are you?
Opinion? Me?
You? Opinionated?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know where you want to start today.
I want to hear a fishing report first.
Okay. Inshore fishing was pretty good. The full moon kind of screwed things up a little bit. It was a little different this month. A lot of guys that I talked to, and I don't feel like I'm alone on this, that things were a little off. I mean, normally when we've got these afternoon rip-roaring outgoing tides, we'd have really good snow fishing. But I think the evenings have been pretty clear and the sky was bright, and I think it just kind of shut things down for the morning bite and early afternoon. Nothing really happened till late afternoon. By then, a lot of guys were off the water because that's when all thunderstorms were moving in. So, it's kind of hard to say what was going on. The guys I talked that are fishing offshore, they kind of said the same thing, even though I still saw some great catches of all kinds of snapper, mangoes, vermilions, lanes, you name it. They were catching them. And as far as tuna fish are concerned, some blackfin tunas, they were in the catch, and I also heard a couple guys catching some wahoo. So there's still a bunch of guys that are out grouper digging and usual stuff's going on. There are a few guys that are still working in the nearshore water, anywhere from 50 to about 80 feet, doing a few gags and red grouper. But get the bigger ones, for the most part, you got to pretty much get out beyond about 120 feet. Other than that, status quo, hot water, hot days, and that's the way it is this time of year.
Indeed it is, my boy. Hey, Ray, if you were king for a day in your area, what one regulation would you change, be it environmental, be it a bag limit, a size limit, whatever? What would you do?
It's funny you ask. I mean, there is no regulation on what I'm going to say.
What's
and
that?
I'm probably going to catch all kinds of heat from the guys that are throwing live bait, but I think they really need to just ban live bait chumming. I mean, think about it this way. It's illegal to feed alligators. It's illegal to feed the birds, the pelicans and whatnot. And the reason being is it changes or alters their patterns of feeding and their fear of people. Okay. And I have most definitely seen a change in the pattern of the way fish respond with anglers that are out there chumming. I mean, it's completely altered where they live and where they stage. So it's my opinion.
So you're saying there's places...
You guys get offshore, that's a different story. I mean, those fish they keep moving. They're either pelagics and moving around, or they're going to be stuck on some kind of structure somewhere. But when it comes to inshore fish, they move around based on the levels of the tide. And they can alter, guys can alter where they stay and where they move by where they chum.
Where they chum,
so,
sure. Yep. They know where the live chum's going to be every day, don't they?
You got that right. I think they even have the noise of the individual outboards down to pat. This guy's got a 55-gallon well.
I can tell you that offshore fish are learning about engine noise. You don't believe that? Yeah. Ask the sharks and porpoises. All right, Ray, that's a great idea, by the way. We appreciate the heck out of it, and please tell me we can check with you next week.
You betcha. I'll be fishing on Monday next week, but I'll try and get in as early as I can.
All right. Captain Ray Markham from West Central. Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report, and he wants to see live chumming go away. I don't know about that. We'll have to see how that works out. Let's head up into the Big Bend. We'll go to Homosassa to check in with the mayor himself, one William Toney. How we doing, Cap?
Doing great here on a fine afternoon.
Yes, it is.
Got a little bit of rain where it actually has cooled the water down, so it's improved our trout bite. And it's funny because normally this time of year you got to head out deep to get them. But if you're willing to get up real early in the morning or fish late in the evening in the cooler parts of the day, that 3 to 5 foot range south of the Homosassa River has been really good on trout using a Glow D.O.A 5.5 inch jerkbait. Believe it or not, looking for that rock grass and everything. Been catching some nice ones in there, but I will tell you, as soon as the tide turns in or it starts to get hot, that bite is kind of short lived. But been some decent fish for this time of year.
Okay, good. Anything going on besides trout? Your redfish biting okay?
Redfish bite is on par, and we had a big wind in our area where members of our Homosassa Guides Association and myself have been going to the commissioner meetings, and last week we're going to keep it at 1 fish per angler, no captain's take, 18 and 27, so we'll be able to eat a redfish all year long.
Same here, and I'm very happy about it. I love the 18 to 27, and I certainly love the 1 fish per person. Now, I'm speaking that way because I get to fish real often. I might feel different if I only got to fish twice a year, but
oh yeah, you kind of have to look at that. But sustainability is the big thing, especially on such a heavily targeted fish on our inshore waters.
Hey, William, what percentage of the redfish you catch have hook holes in them?
Oh man, Rick, I don't look that closely, but I dare to say probably 3/4 of them have probably been caught before.
Why don't we learn from that? I mean, we are fishing on a very finite resource.
Exactly. And it's funny, I can go when I find a good spot and I can get in there and catch a few. I've had a rally here this past week where, I was on a school of them for 5 days straight. So I don't know if it's the same fish we kept catching over and over and they obliged us every day. But I would have to say a lot of them probably were caught from the day before, but they were still there and making my anglers very happy. So that was good.
Wow, that's something. Hey, I'm going to put you in charge for just a few minutes. You only get enough time to change one regulation in the Homosassa fishery. What do you want to change?
Well, I would have to go with our shellfish, and that's the Big Bend draw in our area this time of year is our scalloping.
Oh yeah.
And what I've found here is that there seems to be a decline. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a professional scalloper, but I am on the water quite a bit, and I do know a lot of folks that do it, and I have taken my family and friends like you out and a couple clients, but what's been happening, I think, is that we've been over-harvesting them, and, when you don't, usually scallops will respond to dropping water temperatures generally around September when they spawn. So, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a brain surgeon, but, when there's less spawning scallops, means there's going to be less from the year before. So, some ideas. If I could change one rule, this is what I would like to see done. It would be to maybe lower the bag limit for the next couple of years to 1 gallon per person. Shorten the season, have a mini season like you would down in the Keys for lobster, but we'd have it for scalloping up here, maybe a long 3-day weekend around July 4th, and then shut it down for the whole month of July, reopen it for the month of August. Let them regenerate. And also, every scalloper in the water would have to have some type of device that FWC would benefit, like maybe $5 little piece of plastic or starboard that has the same size hole in it. So while you're in the water, if you pick a scallop up and it falls through that hole, it's too small to harvest. Now, they grow very quickly. So then in August, all those small scallops that were around in July, where if you're going by volume, you're taking probably twice as many as you would later in the year during August.
Aha.
So that would be the one rule I would change.
I love it. I love it. William, great report. Great idea on the scallops. You can tell that you're involved with that every single day to come up with ideas like that, and I like that a lot. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I will be right here in downtown Homosassa.
I believe you'll be there Tuesday, too, won't you?
Absolutely. Looking for a good buddy of mine to take him out scalloping.
Man, I can't wait to see you. I'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you, Captain William Tony. All right, that means it's time to work our way into Northwest Florida. But before we do that, let's hear a word from Academy Sports and Outdoors. Hey, you know, today's new outdoorsmen have so many advantages over us old-timers. I can only imagine how much easier it would have been to become a good fisherman or hunter if we had had Academy Sports and Outdoors back in our day. Well, get ready, Panama City, because your outdoor experience is about to get a whole lot better. That's because Academy Sports and Outdoors is on the way. They will assemble your grill. They'll assemble your bike. They'll bore sight your gun. They'll spool your line. They'll exchange your propane. And they're going to do it all at Academy's best price guarantee. The store is coming in late July, but until then, you can still shop online at academy.com or through Academy's mobile app. That's where you can sign up for all the digital ads and offers you'll need to enhance your outdoor experience. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. Our thanks to William Tony for a great Homosassa report. He wants to see scallops cut back on the harvest. I don't blame him a bit. Now we're going to head up into Northwest and check in with one Captain Kevin Lanier from KC Sport Fishing Adventure. How we doing, Cap?
Hey, Captain Rick, I'm doing pretty good. I'm still trying to dig my way out of all these red snappers.
Shut up. We got 2 days and one of them got blown out.
That's usually the way it works. You can figure 30% is a good thing.
We had 3 boats capsized the first day.
Oh, that's stupid. See, that's a regulation issue.
It's just stupid. But let's talk about something better. Let's talk about your fishing. How is it over there?
Well, we're just coming out of a full moon cycle again, and we have learned, and I have certainly learned over the last few years, that, full moon, 3-4 days later, bite's going to be real tentative. They're not aggressive. Tried something today that did a little bit different. We cut down on the bait size. We actually used half-size cigar minnows and everything, and we did much better on the bite because they didn't have to be quite so aggressive.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. So you limit.
I've always heard if they're tentative, go lighter, go lighter leader, go smaller hooks, everything like that. So I went smaller baits today, and we did well.
Well, that's outstanding. You limited out?
Of course.
How about that? What's been your average keeper fish this year, Kevin?
I would say probably in the 20-inch, right around 20 to 22 inches.
Good. So that's a good eating size right there now. Ain't no doubt about that. Anything with them? Has it been mostly red snapper? Anything much with them?
We'll get into a little bit of black snapper or mangrove and an occasional lane. We get surprise fish like everybody else does, but it's primarily red snapper.
That's fantastic. Hey, Kevin, if you were in charge there for a day and you could change one regulation, what would it be?
I'd open trigger fishing the Gulf year-round.
Amen. That's the one thing we've got over you here on the East Coast is we get to keep a bunch of triggers.
Well, let me make a comment, Captain Rick, and I'm a firm believer in this. I did this up in Washington State. The trigger fish that are on the Atlantic side are the same genetic strain as the trigger fish that are on the Gulf side.
Makes sense.
Same thing with the red snapper. So instead of dividing and conquering like the state is doing, they'll look at it as one mass. And we're not doing any more damage to the red snapper than you guys would be with comparable dates. That's my thing. Let's quit looking at it as two different fisheries and realize we're talking about the same strain of fish.
Well, what's happened now, and I've told you this before, is we are actually, the red snapper are existing to the detriment of the reef. They have taken everything over, and they're eating all the spawn, and it's a mess. There's no doubt about it. But
you're going to create another problem by letting it go unchecked.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Cap, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for a great report, and we will talk to you next week.
Hey, we'll talk to you next week, Captain Rick. We'll see you at ICAST maybe.
You got it. All right, we're going to head on out to the Panhandle to wrap this thing up. But before we do, let's get a word from the Castaway Hat Company. You know, I'll bet you don't even remember the days that all us cool kids would rub baby oil mixed with iodine to help us get even darker in the summertime. Being burnt was cool, and even if you weren't a surfing legend, you sure looked the part. Oh, have a lot of us paid the price for our vanity. We never knew the skin problems and health damage that awaited us. Today's fishermen have the option of being so much healthier in the sun than we ever thought of, thanks in no small part to Castaway Hat Company, who not only provide our podcasters with Castaway straw hats, but they make the coolest prints on the underside of the brims you ever saw. You may think your bimini top or T-top blocks the sun, but as an awful lot of us OGs can tell you, you can't have enough protection from sun damage. Do what we do. Put on the sunblock and put on your Castaway straw hat. You'll look the part of today's best anglers, and you'll even be helping the environment. For each Castaway hat sold, the Castaway Company will pay to have 1 pound of trash removed from our waterways. The burning Florida sun won't be roasting your skin, and believe you me, when you age a few years, you'll thank us old guys who spent a lifetime on the water getting burnt. So go to CastawayHatCo.com and get your best sun protection today. Castaway Hat Company, a hat for every adventure. Time to wrap this up with a trip through the Panhandle, and let's check in with one Tyler Massey. Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you guys?
Good. How's your fishing?
Yeah, fishing's been pretty good. Inshore fishing has not been, this is our toughest time of the year. When we get into, late July, early August, it becomes tough. For some people, it's just the water temp and all that kind of stuff makes it a little more difficult. So we always say, stress early morning, late afternoon fishing. For the trout and redfish, you can throw live bait or lures. Trout are still over the grass flat. The tough part about fishing with shrimp is you end up getting pinfished and they steal your bait. So we say use something more like a finger mullet or something like a greenback. We call them LYs here. Something like that that's not going to get eaten up right away when you're drifting them grass flats, or throw lures. Mirror lure, Mirrodine is a good one to work over top of that grass.
Gotcha.
That's been the best thing. But yeah, again, early morning, late afternoon has been best.
First light, last light, as we call it. Yep. That's
it.
That hot water will shut them down every time. What's going on offshore? You hearing much from the fads?
Yeah, so the fads, it's been producing quite a few wahoos, mahis, and some billfish shots, pretty regularly. After the weekend, it gets a lot of pressure on the weekend, especially a nice weekend. But weekdays don't get quite as much pressure. Not as many people out there, and a lot of people having themselves there. One thing, two of the fads are missing. Fads 5 and 6 are broke off, but they're going to be put back out pretty soon. But just, in case people are going to head out that way, it's a long way to go and end up having to run another 10 miles because you went to the wrong one. So 5 and 6 are missing, but they're going to be put back out hopefully in the next, couple months or whatever.
Right. Now, how far are they from your inlet?
So from Pensacola Pass, the closest one is 55 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then the furthest one on that string, it's about every 5 miles, I believe, or maybe it's 3 miles. You can just kind of jump to them. They keep going to the south and end up, jumping one to the next.
How many of them are there?
There was 8 total, but now there's just 6 out there.
I see. Okay, well that's cool. That's great. Hey, Tyler,
it worked out good. Yep.
If you were in charge of regulations for your area and you could change one, what would you change?
It would be triggerfish, no doubt about it, 100%.
Yep. I've heard that a lot.
After fighting those things for the last couple of weeks out there snapper fishing, I think you could keep a whole dump truck full of them every day and it wouldn't even hurt them one bit.
Well, take it from us on the East Coast. You can locally hurt them some, but you give yourself a 2-week stretch of bad weather, they'll be right back again. We see it all the time. Yeah. Tyler, that's a great report. We appreciate it so much, and please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll be here, Rick. We'll see you guys.
All right, buddy. Captain Tyler Massey from out in the Panhandle area. And that wraps up our trip around the state tonight. That was a lot of fun. I learned a lot today. I tell you what, the fishing has been unusually good for July. The sail fishing in Stewart has been tremendous. They're continuing to see dolphin down in South Florida. Now, it's not great. It's not as good as it was, but Ray Rocher really surprised me with the story saying that July's undersized fish will be legal by August. Is that crazy? And in 5 months, a fish grew to 50-something pounds? That's unbelievable to me, but I know it's true because Ray was there for it. But generally speaking, the reports have been good. Mangrove snapper are good all over the state. It's just been such a great year for them. Kingfish have been okay pretty much everywhere. As you come up the West Coast a little bit, the fish are getting very sensitive to the heat of the day all throughout the state. Fish first light, fish last light. Whatever your fishery is, that's going to be the best part for you. Scallop season sounds like it's not going as well as it could be for Captain William Toney. I'll know more about that next week. I'm going this week. But I tell you what, it's been a fun trip around. I'm so glad we got to do it. This week's trip around the state and every week's trip around the state was brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. Oh, it's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You want to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co, the hat that's helping save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price every day. Hey, do me a favor. If you've got a question, if you've got something you want us to ask our experts, drop me a line at rick@floridasportsman.com and let us know. Let us know what you'd like to see added to the podcast. Let us know how we can help you catch more fish. For Florida Sportsman Magazine, until next week, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and I'll see you on the rip.